our final topic of the day, the IoT prediction. Last but not least, CEO of Telenor Connexion, Mats Lundquist. Welcome.
I am a bold guy, I must say. I'm going to do predictions in a totally unpredictable world. And I'm also doing it as the last point on the agenda after a presentation of Koenigsegg. Not an easy task. This IoT prediction report is something that we have developed together with Accenture. We did it this year. And it's about the macro trends that are impacting the IoT market. And I think it also will serve as a summary of the day, in a way. So it's good in that sense. And towards the end, I will also talk about what these trends mean for customers, what they need to think of. But before we head into the Accenture report, I will actually start with some numbers. I will use another analyst to share those numbers. And that is the market development. And after a couple of rocky years, we now have very strong fundamentals for the total IoT market, the world market of IoT, which includes the hardware, the connectivity that we are mostly talking about today, as well as the applications or the application enablement platforms. $130 billion market with healthy growth over the next 5 years, 8% in total. Connectivity being less than 10%, but growing double digit. And then the applications. And of course, this is fueled by the number of connected devices, already at 1.7 billion, growing 15%. China is still a majority of the connected devices over this prediction. We've talked about the verticals today, and I think they are the same. It's still automotive, the smart city verticals, utilities being very important. On the application side, we have seen a strong consolidation towards AWS and Azure, and we think that will continue. But what is then behind this growth? What is driving this besides companies like yourselves? And what are the macro trends and the forces behind this? And if we start then with the big three that I will talk a bit more about, definitely the pandemic or the impact coming out of the pandemic. Sustainability, I think, more important than ever in the current situation. And also the massive investments that have been made and will be made over the next couple of years in infrastructure. Those of you that were part of the tour earlier on understood how mobile networks are built in a crash course in 2 minutes. That type of infrastructure, and of course the software investments. Starting with the COVID and the shock that meant for all of us in terms of working from home, changing life in a way, and starting to buy much more over the net. That customer behavior is also impacting IoT. When it comes to the supply chains, I mean, those were and still are in a way in a shock. First, factories closing down, and then component shortage and a logistics mess. But starting to produce more local for local needs, but also keeping track of all the things that are shipped around the world. And using connected devices for that, using connected devices for not having people going out, making physical visits. And this goes across industries, of course, healthcare, which has definitely been slow moving, but has started to use this type of equipment and monitoring the equipment. Moving over then to sustainability, and I think everyone is concerned right now what's happening in the world with the war and the impact on energy prices and the energy system with soaring prices. But still, and with all the challenges that are out there, this will be a very strong drive for innovation. Customers are maybe concerned with what will happen with the wallets during this winter, but they are interested in paying for sustainable products, and they want to understand where they have been manufactured and how they're manufactured. And governments will continue having stricter legislation also for sustainability. I think Accenture has done more research on this, and combining sustainability with digital technologies will make customers or companies winners for the future. And I think just considering a couple of Swedish companies, I think Northvolt is a perfect example of that here in Sweden, manufacturing lithium batteries. And then the final macro trend that many have talked about today, the investments that are taking place on the mobile side with LTM and NB-IoT, 5G being designed from the start for IoT. But then, I think more importantly, making use of the data coming out of connected devices based on AI. And making that happen in a rather simple way, supported by high-performance computing in the cloud and on demand. Something that is completely different compared with the situation that I talked about earlier today. The situation 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago. This is something that is totally different and will have a fundamental impact. And I was so happy, listening to all of you, but maybe who's going to put it, I mean, the way the companies need to, it's the consumer that should be in focus for everything that we do with IoT. And the fact that companies are now turning to the commercial offerings to a much larger extent than previously. To give you a few examples, we heard about many today, companies and industries transforming through this innovation. And I think listening to Koenigsegg and the development and the innovation pace in automotive, I mean, it's amazing. I think the automotive industry is in a perfect storm at the moment, of course, with electrification, but also what you can do with connectivity and all the technology around the car. And it is a supercomputer on wheels. There are roughly 80 million cars manufactured each year. And that's, of course, one reason why this is the largest IoT market. It is still the fastest growing IoT market in the world, or vertical. And having the opportunity to do over-the-air upgrades and remotely controlling the car, all the opportunities that will come with V2X communication, car to car, car to infrastructure, car to pedestrian, or car to the grid. And maybe car to the grid will be a killer application within soon. The convenience that is brought by infotainment and services around that. And then enabled by 5G networks with low latency and high speed. And there are so many surveys talking about the socioeconomic impact of this in terms of fewer accidents, saving lives, and of course making it much more convenient to drive a car, or even not needing to drive a car over time. And the value creation for the successful automotive companies in this perfect storm, for sure there will be value creation also over time. Another company example, not an industry example, is Anticimex, going from the automotive industry to pest control. Rat traps. A company that has been around for a very long time as well. And they've been doing pest control in a very traditional way. And having traps based on toxins, doing physical visits, emptying the traps. And Anticimex have used IoT to totally change the way they do their business. Remotely controlling, reducing the need of toxides, really both saving costs and making it much more or less harmful, basically. And this company, owned by private equity, has put this at the very center of strategy and has so far created a lot of shareholder value by introducing IoT and doing this digital transformation. So that's a company example, and there are, of course, many more examples, and we've listened to a couple of them already. Telenor is doing 5G drone pilots in Norway based on 5G. The slow-moving healthcare vertical, personally, if I predict that's going to change, it's going to be much more remote patient care, and I think that's going to take off in a completely different way over the next couple of years. And then finally, logistics and tracking is, of course, important. So what do companies need to do to avoid being in the wrong half of the 100%, the companies that failed? You can view that in a more positive way as well and say that 50% actually succeed with their IT projects. I decide to look upon it that way. It's for sure half full. But what are they doing? And I think we listened to some very practical experiences from the guys that have been doing this for a long period of time. If I take the macro perspective once again, how to get ahead of the curve? What do you need to think about as a company? First of all, I mean, there is no excuse for not going ahead with this. Technology is readily available, and it has been proven now for quite some years. And the investments that are being made makes it even simpler. So that's not where companies need to focus. It's on the commercial side, having the consumer in focus, in the center, understanding what can be done with this. And that could, of course, be cost saving, but it can be many other things. But it's on the commercial side, on the more strategic side, when it comes to commercial offerings and how to use this. That's where companies need to spend time. There will be a shortage of digital competence. We know that. I don't think that will change at all over the next coming years. It's probably going to be even more difficult to get the right talent. A way to overcome that, besides being an attractive company, is of course to work with other companies. And I've said it many times, it's an ecosystem of companies that need to do this. You cannot do it yourself, and it's probably not the right strategy either to do everything yourself. Work with companies and have partners that understand your industry, at least on a certain level, understand the strategy behind it, and of course the domain. I think that's key. It's something to really focus on, having that partner ecosystem. And then finally, start now. Yes, if you haven't started, it's probably too late already. But start small. I think that is a very, very good advice. Do it step by step. Probably try multiple things. And do it smart. And by smart, I mean look at the return, as our friend from Germany talked about. Getting those early results, making sure that you're on the right track, and of course, kill your darlings as well. And these are obvious advice, but it's where a lot of companies actually go completely wrong. So I think that is really something to consider. But all in all, I think we're all of us working in this industry. There's a bright future. I think all the stumbling blocks that are out there now will be stumbling blocks, but not more than that. The trends are so strong, so powerful, that this industry will have good growth over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So with that, I am ready for questions. And now I would like to have questions from the audience, so I will encourage you. Paolo, please.
I can start, and I can think.
You can hold the applause, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, we take the applause in the end. And there will be big ones, so no worries.
Oh.
Talking about predictions, you have been around this business now a couple of years.
Yep.
Is there any trend you didn't see coming, looking where we are today?
Yes, absolutely. Trends that I didn't see coming, trends that I thought would come. But if I take two examples, and they both struck me in Singapore in 2016. I was there visiting customers, and we had a very interesting discussion with an e-scooter company that I didn't believe in at all. No business with them, and I think I was completely wrong on that one. I mean, that industry has really exploded in so many different ways. In the same, during the same visit, I was also interviewed by, I think it was CNBC or some of the big TV channels in Asia about self-driving cars, because they had launched a pilot in Singapore at the time. And I was completely convinced that it would take off and that we will be in self-driving cars now in 2022. Okay. I was, very, very enthusiastic about that. But I don't think we have many level 4 or whatever the level is self-driving cars yet. But it will come. But of course, it's complicated, a lot of legislation, a lot of things, and maybe where the e-scooter had a very concrete consumer-focused self-driving cars. I mean, sometimes you would like to drive your car as well. It's a thing.
I understand. Yeah. Sometimes you underestimate and sometimes you overestimate.
Yes.
Big thanks to all.